Hello, good morning. Welcome everyone to this presentation, to this webinar focused on Japan consumer retail and e-commerce going online in the Japanese market. Thank you everyone for joining. We're super happy and delighted that everyone is coming in. We're just going to give a few seconds for people still to come in and we're joined today. Please don't hesitate to drop any questions in the chat box. We are happy, very delighted to answer your questions. We have a small time at the end of the discussion here to focus on your questions and to answer any questions you might have. So please don't hesitate. This webinar is about providing you with the best resources and information available that you need. So we're also going to be having polls throughout. So hopefully staying dynamic and entertaining for you to make sure that this is a webinar that is best fitting for your needs and for your information. So thank you everyone for joining again. Let's get started. Going online in Japan. So wonderful today to be joined today by a host of experts in the field and some really amazing people that know a lot about e-commerce in Japan. Notably, we have Christopher Pretty, who is the commercial attaché, US Commercial Service in Tokyo. Yosuke Mori, who is Chief Operations Officer at Commerce Robotics. Ted Sahara, who is Principal at Hibiscus Interactive. Sara Ricano, who is Chairman at Cosmetics Importers Association of Japan. Thank you everyone here for joining us. These are leaders in their fields of e-commerce, and we also have service providers that are geared to help US exporters and US companies in the Japanese market growing their exports, their sales, their brand, and their business in Japan. So before I hand over to Christopher, I would like to quickly introduce one of those service providers. Today, we are hosting this webinar in collaboration with the US Commercial Service. Delighted to be here today in collaboration with all of these experts. IBT Online, who are IBT Online and what do we do? Well, our vision essentially is we are a full stack online marketing company with websites, e-commerce, and online marketing focused on helping America's exporters. So we design and we build websites, and this is from distributor websites to fully e-commerce enabled websites. And we do all of the online marketing that goes with this, from the lightest touch of organic SEO to the full social listening and social selling. We are known really for our international scope. So we are online and we are international, and this very much includes Japan. We love the Japanese market. We have a strategic partnership with the US Commercial Service. And we are very delighted and honored to be represented today by Christopher. And this partnership means that we endeavor to continue to help US exporters grow their exports, their sales, their brand, and their business in their chosen international markets. We have lots of different collaborations with the States, so please don't hesitate to get in touch and ask us your questions. The agenda today is packed, and that is why I want to get right to it because we have so much information to share. But essentially, number one is a helping hand from the US Commercial Service in Japan. I'll be introducing Christopher in just a second. Then we have Japanese business opportunities, notably commercial, retail, and e-commerce. Number three, we have Japanese consumer behavior and best practices. Number four is Japan cosmetics industry. And number five, I'll be discussing this part. Number five is Japan online landscape and leveraging your online assets, those online tools to grow your sales and create a business pipeline long term. And then number six is takeaways, next steps, best practices, and Q&A. So once again, please don't hesitate to ask us any questions. Put your questions in the question box because really this webinar is for you and we want you to get the most out of it. Without further ado, I would like to introduce Christopher Pretty, a fantastic resource for US exporters in the Japanese market. Christopher, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you all for joining us today, and thanks to our e-commerce strategic partner, IBT Online, for hosting and emceeing this webinar. Thank you so much, Ava, for the introduction. I'm Chris Pretty, Commercial Officer at the U.S. Embassy in Tokyo. I work with commercial specialist Miho Hoshino to manage the cosmetics and personal care products portfolio in Japan. U.S. Commercial Service colleagues online this morning, Principal Commercial Officer Brittany Banta and Senior Commercial Specialist Hirono Taki manage the consumer goods portfolio from the U.S. Consulate in Osaka and coordinated efforts on organizing today's webinar. Brittany was going to provide opening remarks this morning, but is feeling under the weather, so I stepped in to provide this morning's opening remarks. Our mission at the Commercial Service is to support more exports from the United States to Japan, with an emphasis on helping small and medium-sized companies enter and expand in the Japanese market. Retail trade is one of the largest industries in Japan. The country has the fourth largest e-commerce market in the world after China, the United States, and the United Kingdom. There are opportunities in Japan, but there are also challenges. Today, we've assembled a great panel of presenters to provide their expert insights on the retail landscape, consumer behavior, and best practices for succeeding in Japan. I hope you enjoy today's presentations. Please connect with the speakers and all of us at the U.S. Commercial Service afterwards if we can help you succeed in Japan. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was fantastic, Christopher. Just before we move on to the next part, would be the first poll that I would like to launch, which gives everyone an opportunity to say if you would like to learn more about the US Commercial Service. If you'd like to learn more, please don't hesitate to say yes, to say no, to say maybe you're thinking about it. Know that we would love to hear from you. It would be a delight, and you will be responded to. If you say you'd like to know more, we will be getting in touch with you. Christopher will be getting in touch with you. So please don't hesitate to say contact us. We're here to help. Wonderful. Thank you so much, everyone. That's fantastic in terms of your responses. Now let's go to the next speaker to discuss Japan business opportunities, and this means in consumer, in retail, and e-commerce. I'm delighted to introduce Yosuke Mori. Thank you.
Hi everyone, thank you for joining us today. I am Yosuke Mori of Commerce Robotics. I'm doing Chief Operating Officer at my company. Today I would like to talk about e-commerce market in Japan. First of all, I'd like to introduce the EC market size in Japan. Japan ranks fourth in the world. In terms of segment, food and personal care have the largest GMV. Fashion and beauty ranks the second. Lastly, I would like to mention the growth of market. E-commerce market has continued to grow at approximately 6.24% annually and will do so for many years to come. This fact signifies Japanese market is attractive for those who seek for new opportunities to increase sales. Next slide, please. Up next, I would like to explain key facts about cross-border EC in Japan. I believe all of you have a high interest in this theme. US and China are the largest source of cross-border EC transaction for Japanese consumers, accounting for its 40% respectively. Speaking of products made in the States and purchased by Japanese consumers, US fashion and brands and some electronic appliances are popular among them. Next slide, please. Finally, I'd like to talk about major marketplaces in Japan. Amazon and Rakuten are the largest marketplace here in Japan. It is apparent that these marketplaces have much higher volumes compared to others, as you can see in this slide. These days, Q10 is supported by young female teenagers because of cheap products such as cosmetics, and these are widely distributed on Q10. So Q10s are increasingly popular among young female teenagers. Next slide, please. Last but not least, I'd like to introduce major constraints for foreign firms to enter EC market in Japan. There are 4 constraints that foreign firms usually face. As far as I know, language barriers is the biggest obstacle because Japanese consumers are not good at speaking English. So overseas firms have difficulty to cope with consumer support unless they have a Japanese speaker inside their companies. So there is a need for Japanese business partner to find resolution for these four issues. Next slide, please. Lastly, please let me introduce our service briefly. Our company offers service that support market operations for overseas farms in Japan. And most importantly, we are chosen as a global partner by Rakuten and Yahoo. We offer many services from the phase of application submission to marketplace operation. Above all, I would like to emphasize that multilingual support can provide benefit to all of our customers because we can offer with competitive price in comparison to other options. If you are interested in hearing our service more, please contact our company. We are more than happy to have an online meeting to discuss further. This wraps up my presentation. Thank you so much for your time and your kind attention today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yosuke Mori. That was fantastic. Now that we have set the scene with e-commerce in Japan, we'd like to launch a quick poll so that we can learn more about what you think your biggest challenge, your biggest concern is when entering the Japanese e-commerce market. Um, Thank you very much for being responsive. It's very helpful for us to know what are the challenges that you feel you're facing. Um, of course, these can be different according to your industry, but it's great feedback. So thank you very much. We really appreciate you voting and letting us know your concerns so that we can try and provide best practices and best value throughout this webinar and touch upon what you feel is a major concern for your entry into Japan. Next up, I would like to introduce Ted Sahara to talk about Japanese consumer behavior and best practices. Thank you so much and pleasure to introduce.
Thank you, Ava. Hello, everyone. My name is Ted Saihara, owner of Hibiscus. We are a bilingual Japanese marketing and advertising agency. We help U.S. businesses target the Japanese audience and bring in those Japanese customers to your offline online stores. My presentation today will be more big picture, more concept. Want to be able to explain why this will be a great opportunity for you as a U.S. business and how fun it is going to be for you. The next slide, please. Here, if you're going to start in a new market, right? This being Japanese market, you got to understand it. You got to learn it. I would say if you haven't been to Japan already, go to Japan. You're going to see the different culture, different behavior, fun things, interesting things. And if you have an opportunity to even find a product that's similar to yours, a service or product that's similar to yours that exists in Japan, check it out. How are they branding it? How they're positioning their products? Who's buying it? Who's interested in it? Take a look, experience it, learn it before you get into this journey. Next slide, please. What I mean by localizing everything in native Japanese, don't use Google Translate is really what I'm trying to say. What the reason why, and believe it or not, I get a lot of opinions on why not use Google Translate. You want to talk and have the native speaker explain who you are, what you're about, why you're here. And that really brings in sort of this trust factor. If you can go to the next slide. Basically, if you're speaking at the same level, you're committed, you're invested into this market, into their Japanese market, which gives them that trust factor, right? And that's very important to accomplish as a foreign brand coming in. The biggest challenge that we've seen in the past is to get that trust factor. Next slide, please. And not just from telling your story, right? Not just telling and explaining who you are about. Reviews, testimonials by the same Japanese people talking about your brand is just like here in the US market, like using Yelp or whatnot, is very, very helpful. But one thing that I really want to point out on this side is the commitment to ongoing care and service, customer service. If you've been to Japan, uh, in the plane, hotel, train, wherever, you're going to see the best customer service in the world by far. And that's what the Japanese customers are expecting from you, right? That's what they're used to. And knowing that as a US business going into Japan, knowing that and having to to step up to that level is something that you have to note, and let us help you prepare for that. And I keep telling you about this native speaker, tell your story. The last sentence here: the Japanese are incredibly selective about brands that they like, and it's not just about price. If they really want, because if you're selling a certain thing, let's say a shirt, a coffee, whatever it may be, or cosmetics, they're going to have a very similar product in Japan like yours. Why yours? Why so special? Why do you want me to buy you or be interested in what you are? You need to tell your original story. Next slide, please. So what is it? What is telling your story? On the left side is the English version of Aloha de Mele. It's an artist. And the English side has the model wearing the parero and the popular artwork below it. You can click and buy. But on the right side, you have her, the artist, JT, behind the brand Aloha de Mele, and putting her up uh, as who she is, and bringing her in. And if you scroll down a little bit on this page, where the framed artwork is, there's a bio, a synopsis of her, why she does what she does, and why she is so unique and special. And explaining her first and making that connection, telling your story, will create loyalness to your brand by the Japanese, which is the Japanese have the strongest loyalness if they connect with you. And connecting to your story is critical on entering a new market. Next slide, please. Here's another example. Popular coffee. On the left side is the English version of the website. The discounts, the popular items. Click here, buy now. On the right is that owner. He's handpicking the coffee bean, nurturing, being in the field himself, handmade, and that's a video of him and his team harvesting the coffee bean. And if you scroll down, you see his wife, a coffee specialist, actually roasting the coffee with her hands, handmade, telling that story, explaining that process, and how unique their coffee is compared to anything else. Next slide, please. And I know I don't have that much time, so I'm just going to jump into another fun facts here about Japanese holidays. If you're going to run, let's say, a Christmas campaign, in Japan, yes, they do trade gifts, but unlike the U.S. being with family, it's a date night for couples, and families tend to go to KFC to eat chicken, which is an interesting fun fact. Valentine's Day in Japan, it's the women that give chocolate to men, and men do not give chocolate to girls. So if you're running a Valentine's campaign trying to sell stuff to the men, you're not going to have a successful campaign. Just some fun factors that are different, a little different than what it is like here in the US. Next slide, please. And some important holidays that you should know. If you're running a campaign saying, hey, you can buy stuff this online, but during Golden Week, Obon Silver Week is about a week or so, 2 week kind of holiday season in Japan. So they tend to go overseas for vacation, maybe an opportunity to get those followers, those loyal customers to come to your brick and mortar store and have that type of campaign too, which would be interesting for US businesses. Last slide, please. Social media, everyone's on it, right? But it's different than here in the US. US tends to be the Facebook being number one usage, then Instagram, then Twitter, then TikTok. But here, YouTube is dominant. And then Twitter, then Instagram and Facebook. So some similarity, but YouTube being very dominant. And that said, you may want to consider producing video content for your social or your campaigns, something to think about. And the last slide, please. Again, the same ranking here, but that last data did not display Line. Line is another, it's really a communication tool where people use to talk to each other. And they don't share phone numbers or emails. They tend to just use Line. And 80% of the population, over 80% of the population in Japan uses this application, and also can be considered a social media application too. If you want to know more about Line, please give me a call, a contact. And thank you so much for listening.
Thank you so much, Ted. That was amazing, super informative. I'm so glad we set the scene when it comes to the digital landscape. What we'd like to do is launch a quick poll as well to ask the question of, do you have a Japanese translated website? And so what we refer to as having a digital presence, or like your own digital real estate set up in Japan. Do you have a digital presence already set up in Japan? Where are you at when it comes to maybe you're an exporter, but have you established yourself in the digital economy there? Thank you so much for your responses. I see lots of you are responding. I'm really grateful for that. So please, please, please respond. It's good information. We enjoy it so that we can know how best to go forward with our presentation and know what to talk about. So it's good practices. Thank you so much. Now I'd love to hand over to Saori Kano to talk about Japan cosmetics market. So this is Cosmetic Importers and Association of Japan. Thank you so much, Saori Kano.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Saori Kano. I am the president of Cosmetic Importers Association of Japan. Next page, please. Next page, please. Next page, please. Okay. No. Before.
I think maybe it's a little, it's catching up with you.
Yeah, before. Previous page. No, not this page, before. Okay. All right. Yes, thank you very much. Okay. So, what is Cosmetic Importers Association of Japan? Actually, we have a history. Oh, we came back. Strange. Sorry. We have a history over 50 years, and we have a member 116. That means that the 116 big companies are the members of our association. And what we are doing is to support fair and orderly import procedures of cosmetics. Next page, please. Next. Okay, thank you. All right, so let me quickly talk about the beauty market size of Japan. Do you know that the beauty market of Japan is number 3 in the world? Number 1 is US, number 2 is China, and number 3 is Japan. So our market is very, very big. And I have a question to you. Do you have any idea for how many skincare products do Japanese women use on average every morning and night? Maybe you may think 3 or 4. No, 6 to 8. Actually, today I woke up at 5:30, but I already used 8 products. Okay, so I'm a typical consumer. So about the Japanese market size, this is about wholesale value. So from 18 to 19, thanks to the increase of inbound tourists, we had a very big growth. But because of the COVID, of course, the sales growth stopped. Okay, and if you take a look at the year-to-date September last year versus the previous year, we are still struggling because the growth is only plus 2%. Next page, please. Yes. And actually, maybe you don't have any idea for which brands are performing well in Japan. Like Shiseido, Kanebo, Kose Kanebo, Shiseido Kao, Kose Kanebo, they are big Japanese brands. Those Japanese big brands are representing more than 40% of the total market. So that means that international brands are not performing so big yet. But on the other hand, we can say that there is a big opportunity here. Next page, please. And actually, I say that there is a big opportunity for international brands. And if I talk about a little bit about the trend, the concept of clean beauty and vegan, these concepts are growing. So if you have such products, I'm sure that there is an opportunity here. Then let me talk about import cosmetic. Okay, this is my area. Not yet. Previous page. Previous page, please. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. And compared to a domestic market, import market is increasing surprisingly. Okay, this is a great news. And actually, of course, if I talk about the international brands, there is no impact of inbound tourist effect. This is one thing. And at the same time, some companies and some countries are making a lot of efforts. So at the end, 2023 versus 2022, the growth is plus 14%, which is so different from domestic market. Next page. So which country is performing great? It's Korea. Okay. Historically, France used to be number one, but now Korea is growing very fast. If we talk about the last year, the share is already 23% with a growth of 25%, which is amazing. And as you see that the Korea is very strong at both makeup and skincare as well. While if you take a look at the France is strong at skincare, but at the same time fragrance too. And by the way, US is number 4, so I'm waiting for you. Next page, please. And after talking about cosmetic market, let me quickly talk about working women in Japan. The situation is not so great yet. Ratio of female senior managers is only 15%. This might be very surprising for you. And rank number 7 in G7 means that we are the last. By the way, US, the share is 31%. And for this situation, Japanese government has set an objective to increase that ratio up to 30% by 2030. So we have 6 years to go. By the way, industry with higher ratio of female present, like me, beauty industry is number 2 after nursing schools. So this is the situation. So the world is changing, but slowly yet. So let me quickly talk about myself. I'm working in beauty industry for a long time. And as I said to you, I am the president of Japan Cosmetic Importers Association since 2017. And I was board of governor of American Chamber of Commerce, Japan, since 19 to 22. By the way, I will tell you that I learned English only in Japan. So I can manage even without, studying in other countries. Then I was president of Revlon Japan for 10 years. And now I am the president of Obion Global Japan since 2022, July. And I am dealing with the Bare Mineral, Laura Mercier, Boxen. These are American brands. And I'm also external director of an IT company since 2022. Okay, so I'm doing quite a lot of things. And fortunately, I am often asked to make presentations or lectures at universities or other companies targeted to younger people, talking about how to build a career building or marketing. And what I often tell them is, row your boat to your dream destination with your own hands. Life is scientific, based on cause and effect. Don't worry if you are a woman. Okay, chances will find your smile and efforts. So I will finish my presentation with my smile. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sari Kano. That was super wonderful and a fountain of information for companies listening in today that are in the cosmetics industry. Really, really fantastic. And don't hesitate to get in touch with Sari Kano if you have any further questions. We'd like to launch another quick poll. This poll is all about, would you like to learn more about localized websites for Japan? So this is what we're talking about when we say creating a digital presence in Japan that speaks to the market that you're trying to reach, speaks to your prospects, your Japanese prospects, and you're communicating, as Ted has emphasized, in their language on the platforms that they want to be spoken to. Because as Ted mentioned, and as Sari Kano and Yosuke Mori also say, it's really important to show your commitment to the market, to demonstrate that you are there, trying to reach your prospects and trying to communicate in, using the cultural understandings and language that they want to be spoken to in. So thank you so much for your responses. This is really fantastic information. This is great. We really appreciate it. So what we're going to be doing now is talking about the Japan online landscape and how to leverage your online assets, your digital presence to grow your sales. What I wanted to do is to now round up with some practical examples of some of these best practices, these resources we've been talking about. And I think the easiest way to go forward is to show you some real life examples. But first of all, let's just go back a little bit to what Ted touched upon, which is understanding your Japanese buyer persona. So, your international buyer persona and their journey. Whether you are trying to get into the Mexico market, the India market, the Japan market, etc., you need to do some research and you need to have a website and an online presence that resonates with your local buyer persona. So, and you should be asking yourself the questions like, is my Japan buyer persona different from my US buyer persona? If so, in what ways? Are there multiple buyer personas in my export market? How does my Japan buyer persona find me, interact, and engage with me, etc.? You have to be able to be engageable. You have to be omni-channel. You have to make it easy for that buyer persona to reach you. So in what ways are the buyer journeys very different? So here we have a really great example of how a buyer persona can change subtly, but be adapted across the different markets. In the first image, you see a screenshot here of L'Oreal USA. It's all about women. They're on top of the floor. They're very engaged in different aspects. And the second image that you're going to see is L'Oreal Mexico. It looks much more congenial. It's more familiar. They're working together. There are two men in the image too. Um, then I want to show you another one, which is about Canada. This is L'Oréal Canada. So as you can see, I find this one for Canada very interesting because it really touches upon Canada's cultural mosaic. There are some questions obviously on the left that you can begin to ask yourself, but just in this example, and L'Oreal is great at their international marketing, but this is it really demonstrates the point that you should be thinking about when you're having a digital presence and you're trying to be a global brand as opposed to just operating in your domestic market. How do you tailor your international presence to speak to your international buyer? These are some really good questions to ask. So um, moving on now to what it looks like to speak to your Japanese buyer. If we look at L'Oreal in Japan, we see that L'Oreal considers its Japanese buyer persona also to be different, but it has mirrored its imagery and thinks about keeping the brand nonetheless cohesive. So the imagery is fresh, it's minimalistic, it is uncluttered, it's very feminine. It's also interesting that L'Oreal choose to give a single person rather than a group, and these are deliberate choices made by the company to act as a visual representation to speak to their local buyer in order to resonate best with your local buyer persona in Japan. So L'Oreal, once again, does fantastic marketing and it's really considered its international buyer. So before you're going into the Japanese market, you need to think about who you are trying to sell to, who are you speaking to, on which platforms, and how are you adapting your digital presence visually, culturally, linguistically, um, to be found and to be easy to be understood and communicated with in the Japanese market. Now let's move to some really tangible examples. So I thought this would be interesting to look at and to see how it works, in two ways, if you get my meaning. This is a Japanese company that makes heavy machinery like cranes and construction vehicles, and we built their US website for them. The Japanese and the US website have a lot of different product pages about cranes and machines, but the Japanese website also has a lot of content that is essential for the Japan, but less so for the US buyer persona. This is most noticeable also on the About Us page. On a US website, the mission and the vision statements usually take up a single page. But on the Japanese website, there are 6 sections or drop downs about the About Us section, which includes a very important page with the message from the president and 2 pages about their values, their moral, their commitments to the community and to the traditions. So it's very interesting to see how they are adapting their design and their style but also the priority of the content. So it's a very interesting comparison to when you have a Japanese company that is making a commitment to say that this is our brand values, this is our message, etc., versus the American version, which is more to the point, more straightforward, more direct. But it's an interesting example. Moving on to another quick example that I wanted to highlight, and this is another Japanese company that it's another example. It's a case study that we have been working with. So it's a Japanese company, but we built their US and European websites for it. And I wanted to emphasize the difference here in the imagery. And you should also think about imagery and think about videos as you're adapting to the Japanese market. So while the machines might be the same, the way that it is presented is just so different. For example, in these websites, the Japanese operators are usually seen wearing white gloves. They operate, they're very clinical, and they service the machines. Whereas in the USA, they are smiling, they are waving, they're in shorts, they're in t-shirts. It's a lot less formal. Now let's turn quickly to the concerns of US exporters into Japan. So Japan, as evidenced by our incredible leaders in the field, it's just a great place. It's an awesome place to do business because it's a very engaged market. You need to leverage the right tools, the right platforms, but if you get it right, it's a very rewarding market. I'm not going to bore you with all the statistics, but I just wanted to highlight just two. Notably, that 83% of the population are online in Japan, and nearly all of them are using social media. This means that your prospects are online, your distributors are online, your partners are online, and they are contactable via the social media platforms that you see here. Ted has already stressed about the importance of Line, the importance of YouTube. I'm just going to reemphasize the point, but these are the platforms that you need to be engaging with and speaking on. There are a couple of little features here that also make the Japan market different. It is one of the largest for Yahoo. Yahoo has about 15% market share, but Google is still dominant with just about 75%. The second feature is the long queue of social media. So quite different from what we are used to in North America and Europe, where Facebook reigns supreme. Here, the social media platforms, notably Line, it's widely used in Southeast Asia, but very much in Japan. It is like WhatsApp, so a platform to connect and communicate in, but the app is now diversified by adding more services. So it has a payment method, Line Pay, Line Shopping, Line Brain, which is an AI development department, content such as news, the weather forecasting, fortune telling, on and on and on. And so it's a foundational tool in Japanese lives. It's not just a nice to have, it's a necessity. Line is also a pioneer of virtual stickers for its messaging app. The virtual stickers are one of Line's core services and widely used in Japan. Stickers are created by Line, amateur creators and companies, with each using stickers for their marketing tools. So you can stand out in the market and you can create that individual, that unique brand character by leveraging Line. The second largest platform is also, as you see, Twitter, now known as X. Actually, Japan is its largest market by market share. So you have to take this into account when you're thinking about marketing or even getting to know how your prospects connect with you. As mentioned, you need to be on the platforms that they are leveraging. You need to be speaking to them and communicating to them in Japanese, how those prospects want to be communicated with. But what's great to know is that if you're a small company or a mid-sized company, et cetera, you can punch above your weight in the Japanese market because you can get online and you can speak to them. It's no longer a thing that is like super far and impossible to have. It's reasonable, it's possible. Your prospects, your distributors, and your partners, they're all online and they're ready to talk to you. In fact, they're searching for you. So we're going to turn to Japanese websites. This is an example of a Japanese website that we built for US company as part of our online global programs. And I'm going to talk a little bit about our online global programs later, but this example is IGS. They are a B2B company in robotics, and I wanted to highlight this because of the prominence also of their cookie privacy policy. Privacy policy and cookie policy is very prominent in Japan, and it has stricter privacy and data protection laws than in the USA. The USA, as we're used to operating in America, it's very different when you're going into Europe, and it's very different when you're going into Japan. And the Japanese, they care about security, they care about protection and their data. So Japan implemented a data protection law early on in 2005 with the Protection of Personal Information Act, APPI, and has since amended it to bring it closer to the EU standards of GDPR. So if anyone is exporting to Europe, you are familiar with GDPR, and you know that it is essential when you're trying to grow your sales in Europe. You have to be GDPR compliant. It is the same in Japan. You have to be APPI Act compliant. And if you don't, you are at a major disadvantage to operating and selling in the market. So you need to make sure that your online tools are digitally compliant. Penalties can be upwards of 100,000 US dollars. So it is not something to take lightly. It's just one of these very necessary tools that you're going to need to think about when creating a digital presence in Japan. Another example is Baker Company. This is typical of the type of website we build, although very clinical, very white, with a lot of fresh lines and clinical masks and everything because of their industry, of course. But for American exporters, we create and we help them create and design their digital presence in Japan to support, in this case, it was to support their in-market or their distributor partners. This website really displays the products well, clear images and descriptions. These websites are used by the distributor or the in-market partner to showcase the products, to generate leads from online marketing, and to show the wide range of products available. So once again, whether you're it's just to emphasize the point that whether you are e-commerce or whether you are distributor model, whether you're dependent on your go-to-market strategy, you need a digital presence in order for your products to be found, in order for your prospects to communicate with you. So don't let it be undermined. If you are not an e-commerce company, in your distributor, you still need very much a digital presence. Finally, we have a e-commerce company here. This is an e-commerce website and a company called Richardson Seating, a US company that once again wants to go into the Japanese market. They sell interesting products, and clients can choose the products and add it to the cart and get a quote and be put in touch with. So I wanted to highlight this one because of the changes you might have to make due to the writing styles in Japan. Using characters rather than the Latin alphabet can impact your page layout. This may seem trivial, but it's a big choice. You need to think about the writing style that you choose. So there are three really to choose from. Unlike Chinese, there are no dialectic variations when it comes to writing, though dialects do exist in the spoken language, but for written, it can be complex. The way text is displayed is an incredibly important aspect of marketing, as is color, for example. There are two phonetic alphabets, and hiragana, katakana, and kanji can all be laid out horizontally or vertically, and this can contribute to an overall chaotic impression for Westerners. However, it is only natural for Japanese. The main differences are that hiragana is used for phonetically spelling out Japanese words, and katakana is for foreign words. Kanji is not phonetic syllabary. Instead, it is a set of characters that represent whole words. So if the text is for young readers, we simply use kanji and reduce the words to their component, rather than more complicated and characters. It's something to consider as you are going into the market. Finally, I just wanted to touch upon marketing. So this is a company that we did online digital marketing for. Our services and our online global programs are about localized websites for the Japanese market, but also about digital marketing. So how do you communicate on the digital platforms, all those platforms that we talked about, to your Japanese prospects? We launched these ads in August, and we saw a lot of increase in traffic to the website with strong exposure to new audiences via social media campaigns. So it had a focus on e-commerce events. The ad campaigns contributed to the overall product exposure and buyer conversions, which influence shopping patterns across the funnel. Leveraging localized creatives and images such as these and call to action. So actually in September, we pivoted the strategy a little bit to further focus on lead generation via social media. And over 4 weeks in October, we generated 150% increase in lead from user interested in trialing the product. It's an example. It's an example that we wanted to show to you that online marketing and digital marketing is really important in Japan. It's important in most markets today, but it emphasizes that you need to be leveraging these online platforms and solutions to your advantage so that you can speak to the market and make sure that you can make your presence known on their digital platforms. So it's a range of different platforms that you need to use, and you need to create content calendars in order to make sure that you can like point your imagery and your GIFs and your videos and etc. in a structured way. But long term, there's a huge amount of benefit and great return for your long term business growth in the market. So we're just going to launch another poll. And this poll is about would you like a free website and analysis report? So this would be a website analysis report that we would send you after the webinar has ended. And it'll basically it's a performance and SEO report of your current website. And it'll let you know, it'll grade your website A, B, C, D, E, F, etc., according to how your website is ranking on Google. So obviously, I've noticed from the polls that a lot of you do not have a localized Japanese website. So I'm assuming that when, your dominant website is going to be the one for your domestic market, assuming that is the US, and that is the website that we will do an analysis report on. But it's important if you want to be in the market in Japan market for long term, then you need to also be thinking about having a localized digital presence, a localized website in Japan. So thank you so much for answering that poll. That's really helpful. We appreciate it. And we're going to be moving on to takeaways, next steps, and Q&A as we just have. Oh, we've got another poll. My apologies. Would you like to learn more about localized websites and online marketing in Japan? Before I move on to the Q&A and before I move on to the next steps, this will be helpful in allowing me to know if we can help you in any way and whether we should be in touch. We'd be delighted to be in touch. And as I think I'm gonna also be looking to see if you have any questions, but please don't hesitate to let us know your questions and we will get back in touch with you. And to answer just one quickly of your question, yes, this entire presentation is recorded and it will be sent to you after the webinar has ended. So moving on to takeaways, next steps, and a Q&A. I just want to highlight a few points about what the future of sales looks like. And Japan is no exception. As these great speakers have demonstrated today, Japan is a very unique market. It needs to have a tailored approach, but there are large trends that are existing in the US and Northern America that are very pertinent to how you need to think about your business long term. As in the future of sales, which is now and more involved as a digital first approach. So front and foremost, companies need to be online with digital solutions, and that means that you can communicate to your local buyer in Japan and that they can find you easily. I think if we can look at the above, we see that a lot has changed in the last 10 years, and the major influence is that everything is just done online now, and the benchmark for convenience is way higher. So the entire marketing funnel can occur online for a consumer, and when they purchase, they expect extreme convenience. This means a few things. Your online presence needs to be of a high quality. Your website design and user experience is no longer an advantage, it's a must to have. Mobile accessibility, for example, is also a requirement in Japan. Online buying is a requirement. Clear and easy cataloging of your products and services is a requirement. Transparent pricing is a requirement. Customers today are used to an ease of service with Google and Airbnb and Amazon, etc. So they expect user experiences now to be online and easy to use. Customers also don't need to buy from you. There's a lot of competition in the market, and Japan is no exception. So they can flip to another website easily if they cannot find what they want quickly. And that's why Ted and I have reemphasized the point that there you need to be specific to the Japanese market, and you need to speak to them in a localized way because there is competition. So how do you stand out? You need to have a website that is geared to speak to them, that is easy for them to search, to compare, and that there is very little friction between you and speaking to you, getting in touch. These are the expectations that you need to meet. They are really what set you apart in the market. Making sure that you are omni-channel is another huge one, as customers always want to be online, personalized, and having an omni-channel experience. And this means that they can find you on all those different social media platforms that we've been talking about. So having an omni-channel presence is what's going to make you stand out in the field, but also means that you are easy to see, easy to communicate with, and that you're appealing to the prospect in the way that they want to communicate. And finally, being customer centric. So companies need to invest in digital technology that really improves the buyer experience. If you don't have a good experience when it comes to like that customer looking for your product on your website, they're gonna go away. They're gonna just move away from your website if you're not able to deliver a good one. So it's being customer centric means putting yourself into the shoes of your international buyer persona, which is what we talked about earlier, making sure that you're providing them a really good user experience so that when they find you on a social media platform, when they find you on a website, a localized Japanese website, their experience is fantastic. Their experience is seamless. They want to get in touch with you. They want to learn more. You've put a little contact us here. There's a chat box in the corner. There's pictures, there's images, there's video, there's content that is geared for them. And it's certainly not going to work if it's in English and they only speak Japanese. So it's an obvious no-brainer. I would just like to add a final thing is that Google is customer centric. It's not one Google, it is 150 Googles that operate around the world in the different markets. So Japan is going to be Google Japan is going to be prioritizing the information for the Japanese prospect. It's not going to allow your American website to be found in Japan. That's just not going to rank in Google Japan, because Google operates is focused on the customer first, the Japanese customer first. In this case, it's Japan. So I hope that this makes sense, but it's about putting yourself into the shoes of the customer. If your distributor is in Japan, then it means localizing for their convenience, for their best practices. Having said that, that's why we emphasize the point of respecting your local buyer persona. And this leads me to having a localized website that is speaking to your local buyer persona. I've emphasized this point again, but I'm just going to put 10 criteria here that we need to think of when you say localized website. So note that language is just one criteria. Just as important is your domain name, that's your .jp, the hosting, the regulatory environment, that means the privacy, the cookie policy, etc. A lot goes into a localized website in order for search engines to find it relevant to your prospective customers so that you will be found, be understood, and be easy to do business with. So if you want good up and down load speed times, then you need to think about hosting. And finally, of course, being mobile enabled is super important as well, as users will verify your site and social media, of course, using their phones. When it comes to the Japanese user experience for website, it just so happens that what people like and expect is different from what you, sitting in America with a completely different cultural context, might expect from the same thing. So from a Canadian Western vantage point, the Japan websites can look, and Japan social experience can be quite different, with dense, very dense sections of text, for example, very little white space, multiple focus points, and several calls to actions on just one landing page. Also, I'm just going to add, they have a thing about really being quite petite, miniatures, and cute. The Japan culture of cuteness, of kawaii, is used all over Japan and across thousands of websites. So after spending time on a Japanese website, you'll develop your own sense of what passes and what you need to be when it comes to modifying your website. But it's things that you need to think about in order to make sure that you are found and that your brand is really speaking to the market. So other things include minimalist and simple functionality are evidenced in many aspects of Japan life, from urban planning to traditional art. While you might expect to see the same principles applied to web design, the problem with minimal design is that it goes against the primary need of Japanese consumers to gather large amounts of detailed information. So while non-Japanese websites look to emphasize user benefits more through content that taps into people's desires and motivations, Japanese websites will focus more on the technology that actually makes those benefits possible. And this is something that you should be thinking about and you should be doing too. Next on, just to wrap it up a little bit with your website and online marketing is your best sales rep. It really does make a difference in the Japanese market. They appreciate it. It speaks to them. So you need to think about revamping and updating your website as needed, creating specific event-specific blogs or product-specific blogs that are speaking to them, and enhancing your search engine optimization. That's your SEO. As Ted said earlier, your website is key and speaking to the local market is key. So think of it as your digital storefront. How users find out about you is your best opportunity to showcase your offerings, your products, your services, to build that trust that is so important in such a busy market and in such a competitive market. So thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity to present, and thank you to all speakers here. I'm just going to move now to the comment section to see if we have everybody's comments and questions. Please don't hesitate to ask us your questions. And don't hesitate to learn more. We will be sending that website analysis report and the SEO report to those that asked for it, and I appreciate that. And for all of those that clicked attending, you will be receiving a copy of the recording. So this entire presentation is recorded, and all of you will be getting a copy of that via email tomorrow morning. I'm just going to look at one or two questions. If you have further questions which are more to do with the U.S. Commercial Service, also please don't hesitate to be in touch with Christopher Pitti. And finally, Saori Kano, Ted, and Yosuke Mori, thank you so much for being here. Please don't hesitate to add if you would like to add anything. Most of the questions involve, will the session be recorded? Yes, it will be recorded. There is a question here if you'd like to answer, Ted. What categories are most popular online besides cosmetics? Does anyone, Ted or Sarikana, would you like to answer this question?
I hear food, apparel are popular. Food can be a little challenging when it comes to importing. Cosmetics, skincare, fashion, and you know, we have that data. It's just not in front of me. Again, give us get in touch with us, and we can provide those type of information.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Wonderful. I think, what else? What is this? Would you like to answer this question? I think that this is maybe best placed to Yosuke Mori. What with e-commerce, how does the Japanese tax regulation come into play?
It depends. If you like ship products as like a personal import, you don't have to pay tax for that. But if you like import products like not as like a personal import, you still need to pay tax. So please like consult us. It depends on how you expand your business in Japan.
Fantastic. Okay, thank you so much. And we're going to have to wrap it up, but please don't hesitate to send us further questions, and your questions we will get back to you via email. So thank you so much. We really appreciate everybody here today. Thank you for logging in and asking us your questions. We hope you found it enjoyable and information packed. We appreciate all your questions and all your comments, and we wish you a super day. And we will be sending you all a copy of the recording and answering your questions also by email. So thank you, everyone. It was a pleasure to be here today with these incredible speakers and talk to you about Japan. Thank you.